example, coming from US, a yellow country, they are all quarantined for 5 days, tested on the 5th day. Once negative, they are sent home, but they have to do home quarantine until the 14th day. So lahat naman po ay sumailalim dyan, pero kinukuha pa rin po natin yung manifest so that we can monitor, especially those close contacts.
115 countries have already detected an Omicron case, 51 of which have suspected or confirmed local transmission. Now, the health department here in the Philippines reporting 318 new COVID-19 infections, but these exclude data from 28 non-operational and non-reporting testing laboratories. These labs contribute an average 9.5% of samples tested and 6.4% of positive individuals. There are so far over 9,500 active cases, 11 new deaths, and more than 250 recoveries. Today's tallies also indicate only 14,237 people underwent COVID-19 testing, and 2.2% of them turned out positive. Based on the department's data, there is a steady increase in the positivity rate, or the percentage of people who test positive for the virus of those overall who have been tested. This is still lower than the World Health Organization's 5% recommendation. Now, the health department flagging the case uptick in 31 provinces that showed an increase in infections in the past week. 8 areas have been recording an increase in the past 2 weeks, including the cities of San Juan, Las Piñas, Manila, Makati, and Parañaque in Metro Manila, Apayao in the Cordilleras, as well as Davao de Oro and Davao del Sur.
Ang atin pa rin pong natatala na Omicron case ay 4, galing pa rin po sa labas. So hopefully it is not variant-driven. If we need to observe, no, nakikita ho natin na yung mobility natin ngayon ay mataas kumpara po sa mga previous weeks natin dahil nga po sa ating holiday season. So we are counting 2 weeks prior para makita natin. So ito pong pag-uptick ng mga kaso natin started off 2 weeks ago, no? Ito pong mga exposures na to. So hopefully tayo po tuloy-tuloy po tayo mag-comply sa minimum health protocols.
The country records an uptick in new cases and detects another case of the feared Omicron variant. Beginning January 1st, the DOH will no longer publish its usual daily COVID-19 case bulletin on social media in a move to streamline public communication. But HERA says people can still access data via the agency's website. Octa Research fellow Guido David and senatorial aspirant JB Ejercito questioned the timing of the decision, with Ejercito saying that it is all the more imperative that COVID cases should be closely monitored. He adds, quote, "Complacency will be disastrous in dealing with this pandemic," unquote. Over 100 people in areas hit by Typhoon Odette now battling waterborne diseases as they struggle with limited resources. The health department says there are 16 cases of diarrhea in Cebu and 54 in Siargao Island. 80 people in Dinagat Islands, meanwhile, have been diagnosed with acute gastroenteritis. The agency says water pipes in these areas were damaged and may have caused contamination.
Nagpadala na po tayo ng mga epidemiology teams natin dito sa mga lugar na ito para makita po natin yung talagang source or sanhi ng kanilang mga pagkakaroon ng gastroenteritis. Pwedeng bacterial, pwedeng virus, pwedeng yung iba pang mga sanhi, no, galing sa mga organismo. Kailangan namin matukoy maigi kung ano po yung source nito para po tayo ay makapagbigay ng appropriate na medications. Lahat po ng mga apektado nitong diarrheal cases na ito, sila po ay sumasailalim ngayon sa pagmamanage ng atin pong mga local governments and regional offices, and they are all being treated.
The health department has yet to confirm reports of deaths from waterborne illnesses. Now, over in Palawan, relief and rehabilitation efforts underway in areas heavily devastated by Odette. Disaster officials say the towns of Rojas, Araceli, and San Vicente, as well as several barangays in Puerto Princesa City, are the worst hit, and that bringing aid remains to be a logistical challenge. Tristan Nadalo was able to visit Rojas Town. He now joins us live from Puerto Princesa with the latest. Tristan.
Pia, Typhoon Odette survivors are now dealing with fear, uncertainty, and desperation almost 2 weeks after the typhoon devastated some parts of Palawan province. Fear for their safety and desperation for the much-needed aid. We took a 4-hour trip to Rojas, Palawan, and the devastation was very much apparent even before we reached the town. We found some residents of Barangay Uno in Rojas returning to this part of the coastal barangay looking for whatever belongings they can find. They say at least 50 houses were wiped out in this stretch alone during Typhoon Odette's onslaught. For 73-year-old Nanay Selly, it's heartbreaking to see that her house for more than 40 years is gone.
Masakit, malungkot, kasi nawalan kami talaga ng gamit. Wala kami pambili. Kaya nahirapan din kami, kaya lang tiisin mo kahit na wala kang magawa.
Every day she returns to try to search the debris of their old house in the hopes of finding her coin bank, where she saved some of her money that could help her family.
Wala rin kaming katira-tira, kaya nasiraan nga, was out pa.
Pati pera nyo?
Oo, yung binibigay ng mga anak ko.
Inipon nyo po sana?
Oo, iniipon ko yun. Hindi ko na ba nga iniintindi mabuti, kaya baka makasama sa katawan ko. Nagkasakit pa ako sa kakaisip.
69-year-old Divina Granflor recounted the nightmare when Odette destroyed their home.
Hindi po namin sukat akalain na ito ay ganitong mangyayari sa amin. Sana mabigyan po kami ng suporta ng gobyerno na halos ang mga tao dito walang mga bangka, walang matulugan.
In other parts of Palawan, some roads and bridges were destroyed. Fallen trees and electric posts are everywhere. Residents in Barangay San Rafael in Puerto Princesa struggle to find clean water. This men dug up a well for their water supply.
Biglang rumagasan na yung tubig. Tapos nung nagharang na ho dyan sir sa daan, ay sa tulay, yun na kumalat na yung tubig hanggang sa buong barangay. 8 feet ang lagpas sa tulay. Kasi problema ho talaga sa komunidad yung inumin ng tubig ngayon.
Residents are appealing for relief goods, water supply, and construction materials so that they can start rebuilding their homes. They say that some of them are currently staying with their relatives or camping out beside streets in makeshift tents. Back to you, Pia.
Tristan Nodalo there reporting from Puerto Princesa in Palawan. Now, aside from diarrhea, residents in the typhoon-hit island of Siargao also face the threat of a pneumonia outbreak. Chrissy Di Matulak tells us more.
Here in Siargao District Hospital, most of the patients here are children who are suffering from diarrhea. Since Typhoon Odette, people have been having a difficulty accessing clean water. There is only one generator set working, but it is not enough to power the whole place. The hospital management here in Dapa, Surigao del Norte says that since the typhoon hit, a diarrhea outbreak ensued. And now people are starting to flock for pneumonia-related concerns. The facility is capable of handling only a limited number of patients, but now forced to cramp more than 120 patients. Patients recall their traumatizing ordeal during Typhoon Odette's onslaught. They also recount what brought them here and how they're coping with its aftermath.
Kami mag-asawa, talan, pag-aakos mo eh. Pamatay mo yung dungan mo eh. Sakit naman ako kuto-kuto.
Parang hindi ko matanggap na kasi wala na kaming matitirahan. Tapos dito pa kami sa ospital. Aywan, hindi ko alam.
Because of lack of beds, patients are advised to bring their own mattresses, beddings, and pillows. The hospital is also in dire need of IV fluids and diarrhea medications. Head physician Dr. Eserlina Tan says they would appreciate if more health workers will volunteer and assist them.
Pagod na pagod talaga kami yung mga health workers namin kasi ilang days na ito na ganyan karami yung mga pasyente namin. Yung una, umaabot na nga ng 120, 110. Ngayon, nagmi-maintain pa rin, 90 patients pa rin yung nandoon sa, sa ward.
Aside from diarrhea and pneumonia, the hospital also has to deal with COVID-19. The facility has a limited number of antigen sets. The hospital admits it is not prioritizing COVID-19 related concerns at the moment. They hope not to worry about it, especially since there's already much on their hands. In Surigao del Norte, Chrissy Di Matulak, CNN Philippines.
Coming up on Newsnight, we get updates on other Central Visayas provinces that also suffered from Odette, Bohol, and Cebu. And 3 members of a Korean pop group, BTS, are recovering at home after catching COVID-19. More after the break.
Viral as Senator Sanders was spotted sporting a pair of fashionable wool warmers at President Biden's inauguration. Is fashionable the right word?
Grumpy chic look.
Okay. Opinions were definitely split. Folks were either smitten by the mittens or ready to smite as the gloves came off and the mania made the man become a meme, for better or worse. Speaking of meme-worthy,
I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
I am not a cat. What else can you say when a zany Zoom call filter makes you look like a cat? That's what happened to a Texas lawyer reportedly using his secretary's computer to attend a district court video hearing. You've got to be kidding me. The epic feline fail eventually got sorted out, and when he went viral, the lawyer didn't take it personally. 2021 was a big year for the NFT trend. You're probably like, what the world is an NFT? Non-fungible tokens became the latest cryptocurrency craze, allowing unique digital content to be verified, sold, and traded with assets of the same value, kind of like trading dollar bills. There's more to it, and you may not get it, but get this. Some NFTs sold in 2021 included Jack Dorsey's first tweet for $2.9 million and a gif of a Pop-Tart-bodied cat leaving a rainbow trail for about $600,000. Veterinary doctors made headlines this year by giving a tiny puppy born with upside-down paws a new leash on life. Experts say little Siggy's inverted front paws were the result of a rare congenital condition. Oklahoma State University vets used radiographic study and surgery to reorient and stabilize the paws, and now Siggy's walking tall on the road to recovery. 2021 saw a pair of viral TikTok challenges enjoy trending status before enjoying outright banishment. One was the milk crate challenge, where participants would climb a stack of rickety crates and try not to fall, emphasis on the word try. The other was called Devious Licks, which basically challenged peeps to swipe and or vandalize school property. Both challenges resulted in millions of views on TikTok, and both saw their questionable content eventually removed from the format. Ugh, this is why we can't have nice things, people. Ah, that hurt! Speaking of nice things, check out the size of this fancy pants super yacht that turned heads and garnered clicks when it was squeezed through a town's tiny inland canals in Holland. The 308-foot behemoth vessel was one of many to use the route to go from shipyard to sea trials with very little room to spare. An Alabama sheriff's deputy's viral fame became solid as a rock, all because he looks like The Rock, a lot like The Rock. After Patrol Lieutenant Eric Fields went viral thanks to a TikTok video, the real Rock, Dwayne Johnson, took to Twitter, thanking Fields for his service and inviting him someday for a drink and to swap rock stories. Marine researchers became starstruck during an undersea exploration when they spotted the real-life versions of SpongeBob SquarePants and his buddy Patrick Star side by side on the ocean floor. An image of the iconic duo was tweeted by an expert who promptly killed everyone's buzz by speculating that the star was likely preparing to devour the sponge.
But the Marines are gonna help us.
Our last story went viral for all the right reasons. Car riders whose vehicle became stuck in D.C. area floodwaters witnessed the true meaning of military might and heroism as a busload of uniformed Marines marched through the flood to help push them to safety.
This is the most American thing ever.
Over 4 million views later, the moment perfectly encapsulates the turbulence and togetherness of 2021.
Thank you.
I'm Jeremy Roth.
Oh.
Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Typhoon Odette has turned the once picture-perfect surfing destination of Siargao into a virtual wasteland, and residents spent Christmas Day trying to pick up the pieces. Chrissy Di Matulak returns with that story.
During the Yuletide season, the island of Siargao becomes more vibrant as more tourists come during this time. Locals would celebrate the occasion with tourists, and strangers quickly become friends. But with the devastation caused by Typhoon Odette, everywhere you turn in the island is a site of ruins. The town of Burgos is one of the worst hit areas. The place is popular among surfers for its huge waves. But when the typhoon hit, these waves became deadly, threatened everyone and shattered structures.
Yung alon pumasok na dito. Nung dumating na yung alon dito, tumakbo na sila doon, giniba nila yung pader. Doon na sila kasi lumaki na ang dagat dito.
The devastation of the island did not give residents any reason to celebrate Christmas. Some rung in the occasion lacking basic necessities like food and water.
Kung may pera, nahirapan kami, lalo na sa pagkain. Kasi may mga anak ako. Wala namang trabaho yung asawa ko. Tapos may nanay pa ako na matanda, 95 years old.
With power and communication lines down, distribution of relief items to affected families has become more challenging. Local government units continue to appeal. They are in dire need of supplies for the people and their homes. It may be the holidays, but for people in Siargao, it is the last of their concern. What you want to focus on is how to rebuild their homes and their lives. The people are optimistic that the island will be restored to its old vibrancy with each other's help and cooperation. From Siargao Island, Chrissy Di Matulak, CNN Philippines.
Communities are still struggling to get back on their feet in nearly 2 weeks since Typhoon Odette ravaged parts of the Visayas and Mindanao. Our Melissa Lopez visited Bohol and Cebu, where people still lack power and resources. More in this report.
It's been more than a week since Typhoon Odette left a trail of destruction in Cebu. Families spent Christmas in the dark, and it seems the new year would be no different.
People in Mactan Island are still suffering from the damage brought by powerful winds that ripped through their properties.
Nakakaba, ma'am, kasi tanggal na yung aming mga bubong. Halos, nabasa na yung mga gamit namin, yung paninda namin, wala na. Hindi na kami nakapagnegosyo. Talagang bagsak kami.
Trees and structures could not withstand destructive gusts. Power and water supply have not been restored, while mobile signal is intermittent. Cebuanos are picking up the pieces little by little, one step at a time. This barber shop is back in business, surviving strong winds with only a crack on the display window. But barber Jaime Malyari can't accept as many customers with only one rechargeable razor.
Pangatlong araw lang to, hirap. Hindi nga sa akin tong iniram ko lang to. Ang hirap talaga. Hirap ang tubig inumin. Saka ang init ng araw.
Restarting business is not as easy for Ana Rogales. Her karinderya and sari-sari store remain boarded up.
Kahit nung pandemic, di kami makatinda ng tarong kasi mahina, wala tao. Tapos inabot pa ng bagyo. Yung natitira namin, tinda namin yun ang inamin unti-unti.
Even the Mactan Air Base was not spared from Odette's wrath. This pile of galvanized iron sheets used to be the ceiling fronting the base operations of the Philippine Air Force right beside the Mactan Cebu International Airport.
Workers are still clearing streets of debris. A newly built 16-unit apartment building totally collapsed, while most facilities of the in-camp hospital is not functional. An official says strong winds moved the C-130 cargo aircraft to its opposite side. Damage is extensive. Communities still rely on relief packs to get by, with thousands of families counting on charity to tide them over.
Kailangan namin kuryente, tubig. Kasi yan ang importante, tubig. Hanggang ngayon, di pa rin kami makabili ng materyales. Unang-una, wala kami pambili na. Sana may dumating na ayuda sa amin, para makarecover me.
Zero talaga, zero. Kung may tumulong lang, yan lang. Okay lang.
While the new year is usually a fresh start, typhoon victims just hope to survive the last days of 2021 and rebuild from the ruins. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
The Air Force is transporting supplies every day, both from the government and the private sector, to affected areas. A C-130 plane unloaded 12,000 kilos of rice today for thousands of displaced families in Bohol. A smaller Fokker F-27 aircraft also brought over 1,000 kilos of rice, already repacked into smaller portions. The Air Force spokesman earlier said relief operations will likely drag into the new year as officials warn people against hoarding and profiteering. A total of 19 fireworks-related injuries have been recorded so far in the country just days ahead of New Year's Eve. That's according to the Health Department's update. The figure is 58% higher than that of last year. No one has died from these injuries. Now, still on Newsnight, how are 3 members of BTS doing now after testing positive for COVID-19? And the latest Spider-Man movie swings to new heights, becoming the first pandemic-era film to hit $1 billion in box office sales. You're watching CNN Philippines.
March 25th. But remember, fans, you won't.
I'm sorry, kid.
Yeah, me too.
Don't.
Spider-Man No Way Home is swinging to new heights. It's now the first film to hit $1 billion worldwide during the pandemic. The superhero adventure reached the milestone just 12 days after it was released.
I do hope you find this one informative. Bridgerton returns
March 25th.
March 25th.
Bridgerton is coming back. Netflix just revealed the period drama second season will debut on March 25th. But remember, fans, you won't be seeing the show's breakout star, Regé-Jean Page. The Shonda Rhimes-produced series announced earlier this year that the heartthrob will not be returning for the second season.
Hey, it's nice to be here.
Neil Young gave his fans an unexpected Christmas present this year. On Christmas Day, the rock icon started streaming a lost album on his website, neilyoungarchives.com. Summer Songs was recorded in 1987, but never released. In Hollywood, I'm Douglas Hupp.
Is this right?
Ay sarap.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. 3 members of BTS are on the road to recovery after contracting COVID-19. Both Jin and RM tested negative when they landed in South Korea from the U.S., but got positive results on the 25th. Meanwhile, Suga tested positive immediately upon the group's return. The 3 are now self-isolating and are being treated at home in accordance with health guidelines. Now, in the movies, the web-slinging hero has made yet another box office milestone. Spider-Man: No Way Home is the first film to make $1 billion globally since 2019, and it achieved the feat in just 12 days. The Marvel movie also had the second largest U.S. opening in history, taking $260 million on its first weekend. No Way Home hits local theaters January 8. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
When it comes to our metabolism, we often associate it with exercise, weight gain, and age. We also think about how fast or slow it is, because a slow metabolism could put us at risk of excessive weight gain or obesity. But the strict quarantine and safety protocols have made it quite challenging to move around and get the physical exercise that we need. On the program today, we'll talk more about metabolism and how to raise it during this time of COVID-19. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. Metabolism is the process in which our bodies convert what we eat and drink into energy. What are practical ways to boost our metabolism in today's reality? Let's welcome our guests for today. With us is Dr. Eduardo Yambao Jr. He's a cardiologist from St. Luke's Medical Center and the Asian Hospital and Medical Center. Also with us is Dr. Roberto Mirasol, who's an endocrinologist from St. Luke's Medical Center and Manila Doctors Hospital. Thank you both for joining us once again on the program. Let's start this very interesting discussion. I'll start first kay Dr. Bob. Could you discuss the impact of obesity on our health? You know, it's really a growing problem here at home, and the condition can leave us vulnerable to a number of serious health problems.
That's very true, Dr. Freddy. In fact, obesity is increasing in the Philippines right now.
among Filipinos, it's about 26% overweight and obesity as of recent statistics. It has been shown that a lot of complications are associated also with being overweight or obese. First and foremost would be an increase of risk for diabetes, hypertension. These are chronic diseases. You also have an increased risk of strokes for patients who have being overweight and obese. And of course, pulmonary problems being associated with overweight, sleep apnea, an increase of gallstones as well.
Recent research also suggests that obese people are 80 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes than those with a normal body mass index. Dr. Ed, how does this happen? 80 times more likely. That's a very big number.
Yeah, that's quite big. And Dr. Freddy, because in obese patients, there is an increased amount of inflammatory markers and other substances that leads to insulin resistance or the inability of the body to use the blood sugar. Insulin resistance can cause destruction of the beta cells of the pancreas, which is the one that produces insulin. And this in long term can lead to diabetes.
Okay. Now, a recent study by the WHO says that COVID-19 patients with obesity are more likely to experience severe outcomes or severe symptoms. Dr. Bob, tell us more about this. And do we have to worry about severe COVID if we've experienced excessive weight gain?
Yes, we're seeing a lot of our COVID patients who are obese and actually practically not doing very well. In fact, these are the patients who actually have a lot of complications from the COVID illness. And there are several reasons for that. One is perhaps these patients also have diabetes and also have hypertension and cardiovascular disease. So they're more prone to illness and more prone to problems with COVID-19. And has been also shown that most patients will have greater ventilator days. They will be intubated more. They're obese or overweight because their pulmonary function is actually affected when you're obese. And this is associated with increased risk of ventilator days for our patients, intubated, and more toxic or more complicated cases of COVID-19.
In order to do that, let's talk about the processes that make up our metabolism or how it makes it happen or how our bodies expend energy for that matter. Now, it can be broken down into basically two, which is catabolism and anabolism. Dr. Ed, let's briefly explain what catabolism is.
Catabolism is the breakdown of complex nutrients into simple ones. This leads to production of energy and power that we can use in our day-to-day activities.
Okay, so catabolism occurs when we digest food. Now, Dr. Bob, what happens when our bodies don't get the food or fuel that is needed?
So when we don't eat the food that we're supposed to take in, what happens is you develop low blood sugars. And these low blood sugars will now elicit a response of increase of your what we call hormones, such as adrenaline and steroids, to increase your blood sugars. The next step would be to burn your substitute, which is your fats.
Now, on the other side of the spectrum naman, or of the process, is anabolism. Dr. Bob, tell us naman about what anabolism is.
Anabolism is when it generates, when you need energy and you form cells. That is anabolism. And there are certain hormones which are responsible for anabolism. Growth hormone is one of them. The second would be your insulin, and then also estrogen and testosterone. All of these hormones lead to increase of cells and will make your metabolism of your body.
Dr. Ed, gaano ka-importante itong mga hormones na to, and how can our viewers make sure that these hormones are in balance or in check?
Okay, these hormones are very important because it regulates our body function. If one is more than the usual number that is needed in our body, it can lead to certain dysfunctions. And our patients should look into some telltale signs that they have hormonal imbalances. This could include problems with concentration, sudden weight gain or sudden weight loss. And these are the signs that our hormones are not in tune and should prompt our patients to consult their doctors.
Yes, that's correct. Now, there are many factors that can affect our metabolic rate or the rate of metabolism. When we return, we'll go through some of them and the most important ones. Stay with us on Med Talk Health Talk, only on CNN Philippines. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome back to Med Talk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, where caring is our calling. We all need energy to work, to think, to move. Our body requires a certain number of calories to keep it functioning while performing these basic functions in order to stay alive. Dr. Ed, what should our viewers understand, or what is important to know about someone's basal metabolic rate?
Knowing one's metabolic rate is important to achieve one's weight goal, whether the goal is to maintain, to lose, or gain weight. The metabolic rate is one of the factors that determine the amount of calories one should be consuming in order to achieve this goal. Like, for example, if a person wanted to lose weight, then he will need to eat less than his basal metabolic rate or maintenance calories.
Now, this question is for Dr. Bob. Can you share with us some of the activities that can boost someone's metabolism?
Yes, we need to make our patients move and exercise in one way to make increase the metabolism of our patients. Actually, even just by mere fact that you are standing is also expending a lot of calories, and standing more will increase your calories. Also, walking more, I think, will increase your calories and speed up your metabolism as well. And there are also certain instances wherein there's a way to eat. So if you eat properly, such as eat proteins, this can also increase your metabolic rate. Drink a lot of water. This can also increase your metabolic rate. Also eat a well-balanced diet.
That was good that you mentioned the activities, but I'd like to talk about the heart for really quickly, because a lot of people out there may seem that in order to get some good benefits to increase one's metabolism, kailangan maximum heart rate palagi when it comes to physical activity. Is this the case? Is this true?
No, it's actually pwede siyang short burst, what we call high-intensity training, short burst of intensive exercise, and then burst of activity. This will increase the metabolism faster.
Yes, that's right. So it doesn't really need that much intensity to get good benefits, especially for your heart. Now, there are also some other factors that can affect one's basal metabolic rate, and one of those is genetics. Dr. Ed, is that the be-all and end-all kapag mababa ang metabolism ng isang tao, ganun na siya habang buhay?
Basal metabolic rate varies between people. Some have a faster metabolic rate than others. And these variations in metabolic rate and even body weight can be due to some variants in the person's DNA, which means that genetics do have a role in a person's metabolism.
Bakit kapag mas tumatanda isang tao, Dr. Ed, mas bumabagal din ang metabolism niya? And what can we do about this?
Okay, as one age, the amount of muscle mass, which is an important organ that consumes our energy, decreases. And usually, there's also an increase in the fats in the body when one grows old. And these factors can lead to a slower metabolic rate. But we can do something about this, like diet can also have a role in metabolism as well as physical activity.
Now let's go on to what we can do to boost our metabolism. And one factor that we should talk about is the diet. Dr. Bob, umpisahan natin, what can people eat?
The protein and fat will increase the metabolism. And these are building blocks of our muscles. And we all know that protein is very important. The second would be to take a lot of water, especially cold water. Some studies have shown that also caffeine in coffee or tea, of course not in excess, can also boost your metabolism.
Now, there are several studies that suggest that inadequate sleep can lower our metabolic rate and increase our likelihood to gain weight. But in today's reality, sleep might be hard to come by with COVID-19 related stressors. Dr. Bob, what are some practical tips that you can share with our viewers for them to get high quality sleep?
So what I advise my patients is, number one, to stick to a sleep schedule. I ask them to sleep the same time each day, and then make the room a bit comfortable. So throw down the blinds or the curtains so that it will be dark, low light, and then good comfortable pillows and mattresses for you to be able to sleep. And then also pay attention to what you eat and drink. So avoid alcohol, avoid coffee or tea just before you go to bed. And this will all help in terms of you eating. And then also limit your daytime naps. Some of my patients will tell me, I can't sleep at night, but actually they're sleeping more in the afternoon. So of course, this will all reduce. And the last one would be actually to indulge in physical activity, but not before sleeping, but earlier on, and that you will be able to sleep a good night's sleep.
Now, that was a very interesting conversation on metabolism, and I'd like to thank our guests for today, cardiologist Dr. Eduardo Yambao Jr. and endocrinologist Dr. Roberto Mirasol, for guiding us on this topic that we had. Regular health check is vital during this time, but why is it important to have a good relationship with our doctor and to get medical advice regularly? More on this when we return. Your health is our mission here on MedTalk Health Talk. You're watching CNN Philippines. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, your partner in healthcare. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted many aspects of our lives, including our physical as well as our mental health. Now, earlier we talked about how the quarantine restrictions have affected our everyday physical activities. And as a result, our metabolism may have slowed, leaving us at risk of obesity and other medical conditions. This, among with many other reasons, is why you need to build a relationship with your doctor. Now, to tell us more about this is Dr. Gineth Bibera. She's the Country Medical Director from GlaxoSmithKline, Philippines. Now, as we all know, Dr. Gigi, this pandemic has undeniably impacted so many people in many different ways, especially the people's health. Getting your doctor's advice regularly can preempt the possibility of diseases arising. Doc Gigi, gaano kadalas ba tayo dapat mag-check up sa ating mga doktor?
The one who's saying those fears and the feelings of anxiety are really real. The best times, anytime or all the time, especially for patients who have existing health problems already. No, consulting with your doctor is always the best course of action when one is experiencing any symptom, whether mild or moderate, as it can be a sign of an underlying condition already that can actually jeopardize your health if not addressed as soon as possible, even for those actually without any, the one what we call comorbidities.
Now, of course, it is always vital to check in with your doctor kapag merong nararamdaman. Pero, Doc Gigi, bigyan natin ng scenario yung ating mga viewers. Kunwari, meron akong nararamdaman na mild or even manageable COVID-19 symptoms at home. Kailangan ko ba bang magpakonsulta sa doktor?
Oo naman, no? I mean, you know, there are a lot of, since we are in the pandemic, di ba, Dr. Freddy, syempre
Yes.
The symptoms that we should really be watching out for would be the COVID-related symptoms. And I think a lot of our audience know this already. Fever, cough, colds, shortness of breath, sore throat, loss of smell and taste with associated body aches and pains. Lang, even if the symptoms are mild, these symptoms are actually, there are common illnesses that would have the similar symptomatology. So in a way, we are not sure whether what we are really dealing with is actually COVID or not.
That's right. So marami talagang symptoms na pwede mag-overlap. Ano? So it's best talaga to be able to consult with a doctor para sigurado at ma-minimize yung anxiety ng mga tao. Now, for those naman who are still nervous about face-to-face consultations, we want to remind you that telemedicine is here and it is readily available. Doc Gigi, at this time, people do have a choice whether they want to do face-to-face or to do it online, to see consult with a doctor online. So tingin nyo, Doc Gigi, what is the best option right now?
It would really be the patient's comfort level at this point. That is the most important factor or consideration. It's really up to the patient to choose what works best for that patient. No, so apart from face-to-face, fortunately now, as you mentioned, we have other options to do consultations remotely, no, not face-to-face, and that would be through teleconsultations and through video consultations. Now, it should have its advantages, but again, whatever they prefer, the important thing here is that they are able to get timely medical advice for whatever symptoms they're experiencing.
For those who are interested and who have never tried teleconsult before, how do they go about this? Tell us how teleconsultation works and how can those interested gain access to it?
There are many ways people can avail of this. So first, they may ask if you already have your own family doctor, then you may ask your current doctor if they are providing this type of consultation. Or for patients naman who have like a health card membership, they can also contact their service provider. Now, if they don't have both, then they can call their nearest healthcare facility and ask if they offer teleconsultation or video consultation services. There are really a lot in online. They can look for directories that they can look up online, which will really help them consult with a doctor.
Are there any things that our viewers need to consider before arranging a teleconsult with a doctor?
First, the gadget. At least a telepono, no? You have a mobile phone. And of course, it also helps to have a stable internet connection and an environment conducive for consultation. Now, they can also prepare a list para mas madali. They can prepare a list of questions already that they want to ask so that they can really maximize their time with their doctors and maximize the session.
Ultimately, whether through face-to-face consultation or telemedicine, checking in with your doctor every so often is key here. Now, how do you think this proactive mindset, Doc Gigi, will help the country's healthcare sector?
It's really like a change of mindset. We really need to teach these patients that first and foremost, the priority is their health and wellness. And that has to be ingrained in their minds already. And we should be doing away with self-medication, and in any symptom that we are feeling and experiencing, dapat isipin na natin, I need to consult my doctor. So the emphasis really here is for people to always take care of themselves. Again and again, we should be reminding them that by seeking, as you mentioned earlier, Dr. Freddy, timely medical advice for any symptom that they're experiencing, their doctors will be able to address an underlying condition as early as possible. And that way, in their own little way, they are potentially avoiding more resource-intensive treatments, in turn, helping ease the burden on the country's healthcare system, which we already now are very much under too much pressure due to the pandemic.
Before we go, Doc Gigi, any tips on forming a good relationship naman with the viewers and their doctor?
No, so I leave our audience with the 3 points to keep us their mindset. The first, just a little bit of just to remind them again, take care of yourselves, prioritize your health and your wellness. Second, never ignore your symptoms. Third, well, yes, you always keep your communication line with your doctor open. Go consult your doctor early, especially now that you have been given options on how to do it, whether face-to-face or through teleconsultation. So as I always say, in this pandemic, anything goes. The only wealth that we have is our health, so do take care of it.
And with that, I'd like to thank Dr. Gwyneth Bibera of GlaxoSmithKline Philippines for being with us today. Marami pong salamat sa inyong helpful insights at very timely and practical tips for our viewers.
Thank you, Dr. Freddy.
Remember, it's never too late to get your health back on track. Work with your healthcare provider to come up with a plan that suits you. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and I'll see you again next time.